I think a lot of technology is inspired by fiction. Like a lot of like current AI technology, rockets, electric cars, a lot of it is inspired by actual science fiction. So I'm just saying, if there was a tool to scan the human, right? I feel like this tool can exist. Maybe I'm wrong because I don't understand the deep, science behind it. But like scanning a human and assessing that human's body health, because we already have that, right? Like we already have tools that can guess your body fat, but like a tool that scans your body to see if you have any, diseases, like viruses, cancers. Let me ask it. Does it exist? Like with high accuracy. MRI. So full body MRI. Okay. No radiation, very detailed, very expensive and time consuming. Sometimes this is very small one early stage cancer, so you can be wrong. Using magnetic fields to take these images. Yeah, I know. Full body MRI, PET, CT scan, AI such imaging tools, whole body CT scan. So the cost of an MRI scan is £250. Pretty affordable actually. £300. So full body is £165. Private. There's something called the 7 Tesla MRI scan. I feel like it's kind of stressful to think about when you talk about this topic. I have about 1 more week till, assuming I pass and don't fail the exams. If I pass, then I can be a personal trainer. Well, then I can buy insurance to be a personal trainer. The main thing is the insurance. I can be a personal trainer now. The main thing is preventing to get sued. I don't want to get sued. And then I think I have to advertise this service. Not that it's not really. Yeah, maybe I'll try it for a while and see if I like it. I'm not going all in because I don't think it's the way to have financial success. That'd be one extra thing I can do, I guess. Oh man, why do so many people ask this? I get the question every day. It's a secret. It's a secret, guys. You will never know. It's a secret. I think a lot of like humans stuff. It's like a virus, like when there's a virus, your body fights it. When bacteria, your body fights it. But the body doesn't recognize something like cancer because it's your own cells, and that's the problem. Your body doesn't even recognize something like that. Well, there's a way to solve this. Most cancer strike after reproductive age 47 Oh, so evolution. The reason why there isn't a way to feed it evolution-wise is because it's after peak reproductive age. Hello. So basically, after you've reproduced, it doesn't matter whether you live or die, which makes sense. Let's see. high-risk genes. Why not? AI, you're not gonna escape from AI in the future. AI is coming for you. It's gonna be running after you in your dreams. You're not gonna run from AI. It's the age of AI now. Destiny. Luke, I am your father. Well, you can't escape it, so you just have to embrace the fact that we're in the AI age. says here, Steve Jobs fought for a very, very big bathroom. Only 2 huge bathrooms in the building, one for each gender. I thought it was gonna say they wanted the bathroom for the same gender. 2 genders, but anyway. It says here, one pregnant woman says she shouldn't be forced to walk for 10 minutes just to go to the bathroom. That led to a big fight. That's funny. There would only be 2 sets of bathroom on either side of the atrium. Yeah, the one called Lisa. So Lisa was the first daughter he had. Because he was having sex with his college girlfriend, who I don't think he had long-term feelings for. So then that ended up giving a daughter. But the other daughters are from his wife, so that's different. So that one came out of when he was 23. I was reading biography. But Steve Jobs in general treated a lot of people not very nice. So it wasn't just his daughters. That's the oldest daughter. I think it's called Lisa Brennan Jobs or whatever. I was looking at her. She's in her 30s now. I'm just curious to see how he got to where he is. But I think Steve Jobs was very lucky to get to where he is. I mean, there's a lot of luck involved. I mean financially, obviously he's no longer around, but I was reading through the story because he met Steve Wozniak in high school. I mean in high school, somewhere in high school when he was 16, he met him. And that ended up being a very good collaboration. He wasn't as lucky health-wise, I think, but he could have prevented that. I think he detected it early. He said his main mistake was that, I guess, yeah, he got very lucky. So he had the right co-founder who happened to be a good builder with him. It was a 2-person team, and that guy just happened to be good enough. The mentor who gave him to behave. $250K in cash. But actually that guy ended up screwing him over. Guy called I forgot his name, Mike something. He ended up getting a third of the shares of Apple. But Steve Jobs got fired from his own company because basically the guy wasn't a very good. Wow, you can say he wasn't a good leader. It's because like he had his own things that he wanted to build, and I think he didn't have enough power within Apple, so they fired him. He got in. Wow, I don't deeply understand it. I'm just reading the biography. He got in. They voted him out. So he started a new company called Next, and then eventually he came back later. I've always used Android because it was always cheaper. Like whether it's Samsung or like I think Redmi is very good for value. I have tried iPhone once, but I didn't think it was much better. So yeah, I don't care about the socially acceptable thing. I think it's because iPhone's seen as brand value. I think Steve Jobs, reading the book, Steve Jobs was very good at making the product the way he wanted it to. He's like thinking about the whole experience, including the unpackaging. He's thinking about the circuit board underneath the phone that no one will look at. He's thinking about the buttons. He's thinking about a lot of things that it's like carefully crafting it. I guess the user interface. I've not read to the iPhone point, but that's just reading on his design of the Mac. I don't care, Hugo. I don't care. I'm trying to figure out how I can also become rich from his book. So far, I think the clear thing is that like he assembles teams like Elon, and he had the capital to do that. To do that. Well, to be honest, I think he was he's very reading the book, he was like he really liked your stuff, or he thought it was shit, and he would evidently tell you that it was shit. And I think that was when you could tell that he wasn't that very nice. I think that's like maybe it's like a perfectionist kind of thing. He said earlier through the book he thought he was like Einstein. He thought he was one of the special ones in the world. It's like I don't know if you could call that ego. It's probably a type of ego. He thought he was one of the special ones in the world. When you plan, I don't think you can plan to get rich. I think you can try to do that through creating products that people want. I think I tried to find a shortcut. So far, I don't think there's a shortcut. I think the only way to actually make lots of money is to start a business. Buy stocks, right? But to become like a multi-millionaire, just buying public company stocks is not going to make you like a multi-millionaire. I always think he was lucky too. So this person tweets, "This is Steve Jobs' company. It's at $200." So Steve Jobs' company was like $1 billion in market cap in 1996-ish, 1 or 2 billion in 1996. Now it's worth around I think 2 trillion. What's the Apple market cap? So it's more than 1,000x since then. In 20-something years. Yeah, so it's 3.6 trillion. So you would have 1,000x your money if you just bought Apple in 1996, I guess. But at the time, reading the book, it seems that Apple was on the verge of not bankruptcy, but they were on the verge of like closing down before the internet boom thing. Reading the book, but I was too young then. I was literally like 1 year old. I wasn't buying stocks and shares. You would have needed like, as you know, an American parent who would buy this kind of stuff. And I don't think my parents were buying stocks when I was younger. Yeah, I think AI said the opportunity now is with AI, and it comes every 20 years.
There's that added bit of complexity that I'm postponing.
I said the opportunity right now is with AI, and this is an opportunity that comes every 20 years. So I guess the problem is, actually no, I'm trying to build using Cursor. I actually have 3 tabs open with Cursor.
Welcome to this talk. I'm extremely confused. I think maybe more confused than I've ever been in my entire life. Probably, definitely more confused than I've ever been in my entire life. And I want to talk about that because I think, I don't know, when you're confused, that's the start of something interesting. If you're trained as a scientist, that's like the thing you want to pay most attention to.
Well, if you study engineering, maybe you can build something. I think it's not. The problem is, like, my problem is that I tried to solo it, and soloing it is not working. So, okay.
That moment where you're
because I read the Elon Musk book, and he's gathering talent and teams. Okay. So you're like in your early 20s.
confused. Like, oh, this is interesting. I don't know what's about to happen. I've been in.
Well, maybe you can join my startup and let's build something. I don't know what the fuck you built. The problem is, like, when he starts a rocket company, he finds people to build rockets for him. But he's also involved in the work too. It's not like he's like he's not like the ideas guy. He's like the vision dude. Oh, you're too young then. Like I thought you were like 20. So he's like the vision guy. The guy, he has a vision of what he wants to build, and he assembles people to build it for him.
Technology for like my whole life, and I feel like I've always had this advantage where it's like, oh, I understand what's
I'm in my
happening.
late
I actually
20s.
kind of think I know what's going to happen over the next 5 or 10 years, and I've used that to my advantage. Like, I've planned my career around it. I've founded companies around it. Kind of gotten ahead of the trend and gotten involved at the right time in a lot of different places, and that's like really been great for me. I no longer feel that way though. Like,
I
can't see 5
will
years
no
into the
longer
future. I can
be
see,
in my
like,
late
3
20s in
weeks
a couple months.
less.
Damn.
And I really just don't know what's going to happen. So I want to have a series
Do
of
I have to
questions
say like I'm
that
30 years old
hopefully
like,
help
next year? Shit.
me figure out what's going on. Maybe it'll help you all figure out what's going on.
Damn.
Maybe not. Not all
I have
questions
to
are
say
useful.
that.
But I think asking good questions is
It's
extremely
annoying.
important to running a startup, running a research team, running your life, whatever you're doing. I think we all need to like stop sometimes and just ask questions. But I think the moment in time that we're going through right now with AI is like extremely challenging and fast. And if there was ever a time to stop and ask questions, it's probably right now. All views are my own, obviously. I think we're like required to say that. My day job is running an alignment research team at Anthropic. I've also been through YC. I've done multiple startups in my life, so maybe my perspective on like AI plus startups is useful for all if you're thinking about startup life or AI life. Okay, that's enough of a preamble. Let's jump in. This is sort of like the main question I want to ask. Everything's changing. How should that impact everything about my life? Honestly, like, should you even start a startup?
Well,
is the big question. But let's assume that you're starting a startup,
is
or running
like-
a startup already.
it's not Web3,
How should it impact your
but
strategy?
this
How
is
should it impact
like
your product? How should it
AI.
impact how you're building your team? Like, these are big open
AI
questions.
age.
And I think AI is probably going to change how you answer them today and probably differently tomorrow. And there's like this kind of paradox that I've seen throughout my career running startups and talking to startup founders. Everyone always tells you focus is everything. Like, that's the advantage that startups have. Focus, focus, focus. Big companies can't focus. That's why you can outcompete them and run circles around them. But despite the fact that focus is everything, the other truth of running a startup is you have to focus on everything. Right? Like, it's your job to think about hiring and fundraising and product and strategy and go to market and just like everything, right? And then all of a sudden in the middle of like a product launch, someone on your team quits and someone else threatens to quit.
Oh,
and
this
it's
is
madness
not
and it's
bad.
happening all the time. This is just an extreme paradox, but I think it kind of
So I'm trying to build
makes founders suitable
clove
to the
change
biggest
now.
question that we're all
It's not
facing
bad,
as
actually.
a society, which is what's going to happen with AI and what should we be doing.
This is
Founders
not
are people
bad.
that have to just answer every single question always. So I think it's a good positioning. There's been sort of like
Oh.
common, quote unquote common, just like in the last
Damn.
6 months.
Oh, no, it didn't work.
Best practices, like what do you think about AI for your product? And people say like, oh, you should like think about what happens over the next 6 months. Think about what the next foundation models are going to be able to do, and make sure you're planning your product, anticipating what those capabilities are going to do.
So I'm
Don't,
trying
like,
to build
plan
an
for the
app.
capabilities today.
With already apps exist like this. I think ChatGPT suggested that I build this. So there's already apps that exist like this. It's an app that you give a photo of yourself and then you can give it glasses or hats or clothes. This is what you're doing. So it's like a virtual try-on app. But there's already apps like this. But I wanted to see whether I can build it.
I think it's like extremely valid advice. You should definitely take it seriously. But I want to like up the ante a little bit and say, actually, you should be planning 2 years in advance, because it's extremely likely that we will have AGI in the next few years. Maybe it's not 2, maybe it's 3, right? But I think you should be
Yeah, but
planning
you're 16,
your
so
company,
you probably don't have many photos
your
of
strategy
yourself.
around this fact, right?
Yeah.
And like, there's extreme uncertainty, right? So don't like take it too seriously. Don't have like literally a 2-year plan. But if you're not thinking a little bit about how this is going to change everything, from hiring to marketing to go to market, etc., I don't think you're doing your job as a founder. Okay, so that's really the theme here today. So I want to go through a series of questions and take this lens of AGI arriving, and also just take the lens of what's changing near-term in AI over the next 6 months. I think there's been a lot of conversations around oh, actually the impact of AI is going to be slower than we think, and the reason is that big companies suck and they have to they take a lot of time to
if it's a bad idea,
they don't realize the trend,
idea.
and then
if you say it's a bad idea, I would do it.
The enterprise sales cycle is really slow, so all the Fortune 500 companies are just going to take years.
You're a 16-year-old girl? I thought you were a guy.
Years and years to digest all the SaaS products that you all might want to be building, and I think that's actually extremely nearsighted. Because what's going to happen, I think, open question, is the buy side, the enterprise.
No, apparently, if everyone thinks it's a bad idea, it's probably a good idea.
They're going to get armed with AGI.
Apparently, so it's bad if everyone thinks it's a good idea. This is I don't know if you call it contrarian. I think this is probably true.
Or strong agents over the next.
I think it's Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, he said if you ask everyone and everyone thinks it's a good idea, it's probably a bad idea. But if people think it's a bad idea, it might be a good idea.
Users as well, right? And that's not just via the SaaS products that they might be building.
I think that actually
natively
makes sense
inside,
to me.
right? Their teams are going to be using the next versions of LLMs to make buying decisions, right? And to figure out how to accelerate their adoption cycle. The force of AI is not just on this product revolution that the startups are building. It's also on the buy side.
You know who
right?
go?
I think this is an interesting, weird thing about AI is that it's going to rise. The water rises and all ships rise with it. It's not just the startups. The incumbents benefit from AI too. And I think we're seeing that in other places too, where large enterprises sometimes aren't even going out and buying software from SaaS providers anymore. They're I can just throw 2 people at Claude Code and they'll build it and it'll be dedicated to the capabilities that I need for my organization. So buy side is going to be evolving really quickly, and I think it's an open question. What does that mean, right? I think another angle on this is, when you have AI-powered outbound sales, we think about what that is going to do to the marketplace, but there's going to be this buy side too of receiving those sale calls from AIs and trying to parse what's going on. So the dynamics aren't really clear how it's going to play out. This is a kind of related question. Is software going to fully commoditize? Is it even going to make sense to run a SaaS provider in 2 years or 3 years? Or is it going to be the case that enterprises really do just build all their software in-house because it's just one prompt to Claude Code, the next gen version of Claude Code, right? And actually you just need in-house product managers and they're going to do everything for you. That's one real outcome. That could happen to the consumer side too. Maybe consumers eventually are just not downloading apps anymore. They're just building apps on demand for themselves. They don't even think about it that way. They don't even think about them as apps anymore. It's just, yeah, I want my phone to do something for me. I ask it and yeah, I made an app for me, sure. What's the point of downloading?
I call it MorphMe. So MorphMe is an app. You know what? I'm going to try to sell you like Steve Jobs does to make a good video. So MorphMe, it's an app. You put a photo on of yourself, and then you get to try on virtual clothes. They already exist, but the difference is, it's morphing mode. Okay, I'm trying to sell this fucking app, man. Like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, when he's selling each product, he has this presentation that he does, where it's so I'm gonna unveil. So I've not watched all his presentations. When I'm reading the book, he does this apparently. He says, I'm gonna unveil something that you've never seen before. Today, we will be making history, and I will be unveiling this. And you'll be like, oh, it's the Macintosh. This is apparently how history was made. It's quite interesting, actually.
An app at this point. So that's one outcome. But I think another outcome actually is the opposite. It's maybe all of this automation on generating code.
It's also selling you the story. And almost, to be honest, it makes sense. It hypes it up. I think that probably increases sales. It builds excitement.
Easier to just raise the quality bar extremely high. And sure, you can make the equivalent of today's apps very easily just by prompting. But can you make an exceptional app tomorrow? The equivalent
to be honest, there's already old apps like this.
To raise the bar. I don't actually.
But I just want to build it.
It might be different depending on the vertical, and you should be thinking about this for your product. I think it's an interesting question too. If you can write software on demand, do you even make apps anymore, or is it really on demand, right? Why? We're taking Claude Code and things like it to ahead of time figure out what a user needs and then build as much software as we need to support all those use cases. But if you can do code on demand, why not do it on demand? On the fly. Here's this user. They're doing something in your app potentially, and the app realizes that the app can't support what they want, and on demand, you generate code for that user. I think it's a really interesting pattern if you can make it work, but it raises all sorts of issues around trust, right? It's one thing to do generative UI, where maybe you're changing the shape of the interface for the user, but real new behaviors would require going down to the database level, right, and backend. And if you want your AI to be able to do that on demand, you better trust that AI can do its job, right? And obviously right now AIs are not trustable enough to make that happen. So I think trust is going to be a big theme over how these different questions play out. Similar question, what should UI look like? I think people talk about generative UI, hasn't really happened yet, but I'm bullish to see when it does happen. Is an on-demand UI the right interface, or is there something even more different that we haven't thought about? I think about this specifically in the context of multimodality, weaving together auditory and images and video and text, and what's the right input back from the user. As a user, sometimes I want to speak, sometimes I want to use touch interfaces. It's really contextual depending on whether I'm in a crowded area, et cetera, right? I think you want to meet the user where they are. What's the easiest way for them to interface with your product right now? That's the question you're thinking about. And I think all this ties into this big question I have, which is we have all these products today that have great distribution, and people realize that we need to insert AI into it. All the major players are doing this, right? Slapping a chatbot on slapping on some like agentic behavior or whatever, right? They're like retrofitting their products to try to enable something with AI, right? But that's like trying to like sprinkle pixie dust on something. It's natural to think it's better to build a new product from the ground up that's AI native. Like that's like my startup mentality, like new technology, revolution. You need to start from scratch if you want to build this right. But that might not be true. It actually might be the case that retrofitting existing products with the benefit of distribution wins. And I think again, it might not be universal. This might be vertical by vertical. But I think this is a really important question that you should be asking yourself. And like, don't just have an opinion. Like, figure out the causal mechanisms that allow you to validate your hypothesis. Because I think these types of questions will make or break different products. Okay, so that's a lot about like products, product strategy. But I think every part of a startup is like extremely important. The most important thing is your culture, it's your team. Will team sizes get even smaller? I think like that's like the default that people are assuming. But I think similar to products where like you can retrofit or you can build from scratch, I think there's going to be this question, which is, are like AI native teams that were built from scratch to be AI native, are they going to have some advantage over large companies that are like downsizing and finding ways to make themselves more efficient with AI, right? Are there like team patterns where you kind of like just operate differently if you started from an AI native place? And actually that might be different every 6, 12, or 18 months, right? Because the capabilities of AI are changing. So like an AI native company today might be different than what an AI native company tomorrow looks like in 12 months. You might be outdated if you're not like thinking about how to retrofit yourself. Like I said, I think trust is going to be extremely important, right? So like how does the security model change? Like I mentioned this already in the case of on-demand code where you want your LLM to be able to go all the way back down to the database layer and do something on demand for that customer, for that consumer. But you can't do that if you can't trust the controls that you have in place and if you can't trust the capabilities of the model to do the right thing, right? I think about this also in the context of like assistants. Like the whole point of an assistant is to be useful to the consumer, to that user. But we have all these walled gardens and you're starting to see like maybe you need different agents in different settings, right? But that's not what you want. As a user, you want one agent for all of your things, right? So me, I want my personal agent and my professional agent at work to be able to work together, right? That raises all sorts of concerns. Like there's stuff that I do on my personal time, or you do on your personal time that maybe you don't want your employer to know about, right? So how do you make sure that the information is segregated while still allowing those agents to collaborate in the right way? Those are hard questions. Can you do it, right? Can you get to the same level of usefulness? Or do you have to compromise somehow on some of these security aspects? A deeper question about agents is, we think about alignment as can we trust the AI? But the truth is, even if you have a perfectly aligned, quote unquote, like intent aligned model, it's going to be used by a corporation or a startup to build an agent for that user. And then the question is, can you trust the startup that's building the agent, right? Is this agent that they developed for you actually acting on your behalf? If this is like an ad-based company and you're using this agent to search for like a new brand of shoes or whatever, right? Like, is it going to be biased? Is it going to be like pumping you towards one direction? That's not what you want as the user, right? But it might be what you want as the corporation. So, and then how do we start even asking these questions, right? Then going back to the previous slide around like personal versus professional agents, I really care if I'm using that agent, I really care that it's operating on my behalf, right? If it's like secretly operating on behalf of my company and it's like optimizing things in my personal life that's better for the company than me, that's like extremely scary. And I think it gets more scary the more capable the models get. So I think it's important to start thinking about trust, right? Like how do we instill trust, not just in the models, but in the agents and in the companies that are building these agents, right? And I think ultimately what that really comes down to is trust in you all, or trust in the companies that you're building, right? How can a user trust this like company that's building this product, especially, already today we have these extremely small teams. Tomorrow the teams might be even smaller. You might have these like semi-automated teams almost. How can you trust that team? You might say, well, I don't know, like we trust companies today. One of the core reasons we trust companies today is because they're composed of a diversity of people. You can trust to some extent that if there's reasonable culture at a company, that if the company decides, if the CEO decides to do something bad, that someone in the company is going to raise their hand and say, no, I don't support this. I'm going to whistleblow. I'm going to leak this. I'm going to quit. I'm going to take a bunch of people with me. I'm pissed. I hate this, right? And without the people supporting the company doesn't have a product, right? But in a semi-automated world, it's no longer true. And it could be the fact that a single person could make a decision that changes the entire impact of a product. And there's no single person that might be aware of that except themselves. It gets extremely easy for bad actors to do bad things. And if you've followed along the history of Silicon Valley or the history of humanity, the truth is a huge majority of people are misaligned, right? Especially when money is on the line. So I think this is a really important question. And the truth is, like, we already think about this. Like large enterprises, for example, already distrust startups, partially for this reason. There's a lot of reasons why large enterprises distrust startups. One of them is they're worried they're going to go out of business tomorrow, right? But it's just a lot easier for a small startup to do the wrong thing compared to a big company, right? That's part of what makes small startups successful sometimes. So I think this is already like on the top of minds of enterprises, but it'll increasingly be on the top of minds of everyday people. So that kind of leads me to this next question, which is, well, how do we instill trust? Like, what does a new set of guardrails need to look like? If you don't have all these human guardrails inside of your company, where you've worked really hard to build great culture and build a collection of people who care about doing the right thing, if that's not the thing that makes a company ethical anymore, how else can we make sure that there are guardrails? Like, what does that look like? A lot of people have been throwing around ideas on this. There's like this notion of AI-powered auditing. Like, what should an audit look like in an AGI world? There's this huge advantage that AI has over humans when it comes to bringing comfort to an audit, which is that they can be less biased, and they can also have no memory. If you agree, for an example, right? If you agree as a company to let an AI audit you, and you can say, hey, if you don't find any malfeasance, if after your audit you decided that we didn't do anything wrong as we claimed, maybe you have like a public mission statement that the AI is like confirming, then the AI deletes itself, right? All of its nodes, et cetera, get deleted. And that's a big advantage over having human auditors, where they can take information with them, right? There's already auditing happening today, right? For legal reasons, for financial reasons, or you want to be like certified organic or whatever it is, right? But you have to let people come into your company and audit you, and there's danger there, right? They might take with them like IP, or they might find sensitive things, and then like, which were unrelated to the thing you wanted to get audited, and all these bad things can happen, right? So there's like this potential, I think, for AI to give us a much stronger auditing system that can be part of how we build trust, how we let people build trust in us and the companies and products that we're building. So that kind of leads me to this next question, which is, should we be doing that? Like, are there some other ways that you plan on having, on building trust with your users? Or should we be doing this? Should we be making like, not just public commitments? Companies make public commitments all the time. Like, oh, we care.
You'll read a lot of press that basically says AI is coming for our jobs. Is most of the press is not inside of big companies, seeing how much time we spend on useless activities that are necessary but not strategic. There's a very, very long list of things that software never did before that AI agents are perfectly primed to go do now. And that's basically the opportunity set. Now is the moment. This window will end. In this window, between a year ago and 3 years or so, plus or minus from now, this is when the next hundreds of great companies will get started.
So Aaron and I go way back. I don't know if you remember this. I went and searched my old Bump. So Bump was my startup. I searched my old Bump email for Aaron@box.net.
Yes.
And I found very old emails where we would coordinate in Mountain View times to meet up with 3 founders.
Yes.
You, me, and this guy named Sam Altman.
Yeah.
And we would coordinate to try to like do brunch or lunch or whatever. And then I saw emails between us saying like, oh yeah, well Sam's gonna probably like not show up again. And so that's
Did he show up?
No, he would always.
Oh, okay,
show up.
okay,
I don't know if
okay.
you remember this. You started Box probably before many of the people in the audience were alive.
Okay. Who's, let me just show of hands, who's like below 20 years old? Wow. Okay, great. Yes, then accurate. Very, very accurate.
So maybe to start,
yes.
Like we're going to talk about AI a lot, but to start, you went through another major transformation.
Yes.
Which, see, I use the word transformation.
Yes, thank you.
Digital transformation.
Yes.
Around cloud, going to cloud. Maybe just walk us through like what that looked like at a very high level, and maybe what is different or similar about the transition to AI now.
We started the company in 2005, and this was a time where you have to kind of literally go back 20 years and think about a world where the internet was much slower, browsers were way worse, we didn't have the iPhone, we didn't have Android, Chrome didn't exist, like everything was just like way worse on every dimension. We basically had an initial kind of idea that as the internet got faster, as you worked on more mobile devices, you'd want to be able to access your data from anywhere. And that was the original idea of Box, where we said you'd go between different computers, you'd access your files, you'd share them, you'd collaborate. So we launched the company. It was initially focused on the consumer market, or consumers / just kind of prosumer, anybody that wanted to sign up. We started to get a little bit of traction, and by a little bit, like we're talking like 10 people signed up, like in the first week or something. So it was just very, very slow and steady growth. And what happened was we got a little bit more growth. We got some early funding from Mark Cuban and some angel investors. We then dropped out of college. We got sort of more of an upswing. We had a freemium business model, so we let people sign up for free and start to use the product. And then one day we kind of ran into this fork in the road, which was, do we stay the consumer, go down the consumer path, or do we pivot to the enterprise? And the calculus was, we felt like it was going to be way too hard to compete with all the consumer technology platforms that would give away storage for free. They'd sort of embed it into their operating system or their social network or whatnot. It would be way too hard to go in and monetize this. So we decided to pivot to the enterprise, where we could be cheaper, faster, easier than a lot of the big incumbents at the time. So we pivoted to the enterprise, and we got extremely lucky on the timing because we rode this growth wave of mobile and cloud that were sort of working in tandem to effectively create a new IT architecture within enterprises. And so for us, we got to ride this wave where once we had better security, more functionality than a lot of the incumbent services, as companies moved to the cloud, they needed a way to share their data, access their information, and so we became an increasingly obvious choice. So that was the cloud wave, and that kind of propelled us to where we're at today. And there's a lot of similarities to the early days of cloud and the early days of AI, with maybe one big difference, which is the early days of cloud, we were having to go convince people that the cloud was going to be this big deal. Right. And we had to go tell everybody that the future is going to be cloud computing. It's totally safe to trust this with your data. A lot of people didn't believe us, and so that meant we just couldn't win deals in entire segments of customers. So conversely, with AI, you're no longer really having to convince people that AI is the future. Everybody tends to be bought in the enterprise segment. There's a lot of still slowness in adoption in large enterprises, but it's not because people aren't convinced that AI is the future. It's just because there's lots of natural sort of pace of change that an enterprise has to go through.
Why are they convinced? Is it just that they themselves personally have used ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Is that the main driver? Because I'm not aware of a lot of AI solutions that are deployed to enterprises that have really made a difference.
Yeah, I think it's maybe unlike cloud. Like cloud didn't have like decades and decades of sort of societal level conversation about cloud. It just like emerged one day, and it was like, this is like, it seems kind of cool and efficient, but if you're in an IT department, the cloud was actually very scary because you're taking your servers that you manage, you can see them, you manage all the software for, and you're relying on AWS or Microsoft or Google to manage that infrastructure. And so there was a real big shift on IT, and the CEO or the head of marketing, the head of sales, they didn't really care how the infrastructure was delivered.
Sort of thought we had like stumbled on this one giant secret that we had these scaling laws for language models, and that felt like such an incredible triumph. I was like, we're probably never going to get that lucky again. And deep learning has been this miracle that keeps on giving, and we have kept finding breakthrough after breakthrough. Again, when we got the reasoning model breakthrough, like I also thought that was like, we're never going to get another one like that. And it just seems so improbable that this one technology, what traditionally would have been the research lab at this scale, but 3 core ones. We want to be people's personal AI subscription. I think most people have one, some people have several, and you'll use it in some first-party consumer stuff with us, but you'll also log into a bunch of other services, and you'll use it from dedicated devices at some point. You'll have this AI that gets to know you and be really useful.
very scary because you're taking your servers that you manage, you can see them, you manage all the software for, and you're relying on AWS or Microsoft or Google to manage that infrastructure. And so there was a real big shift on IT, and the CEO or the head of marketing, the head of sales, they didn't really care how the infrastructure was delivered. So you didn't have anybody kind of pushing on the IT org saying we have to go to the cloud. Like nobody really cared. AI, totally different situation. We've had science fiction for probably 100 years that has basically said you're gonna have robots, you're gonna have artificial intelligence. Over the past 20, 30 years, it's been in the zeitgeist. Self-driving cars, watching Watson on Jeopardy, using early
Oh, you're right. It's on 80%. Why is it on 80%?